Welcome back, everybody. My name's Tommy McCarthy. We are Cyber News Global, and this is Let's Talk Cyber. What can I say about today's guest? I was introduced to Dr. Diane Janosek just under a year ago, in fact, as a finalist in the Global Cyber Woman of the World Awards. You were a finalist. I received your CV, Diane, and I kid you not, I was blown away. My goodness, what a 30-year career. And most of that time, in fact, all of that time in government, starting off in, I believe, 1992 in the US Department of State. I could be wrong, but I'm going to ask you, Diane, to tell us a little bit about who you are before we delve into security and innovation. Diane, who are you?
Well, thank you, Tommy, for having me. What a great day. What a great podcast you have. And I love how you advocate for our community, which is incredibly special. So a little bit about me. I live in the United States, right outside of Washington, D.C., and I had the honor and pleasure of working in our intelligence community, our Department of Defense sector for over 30 years. And now I'm the CEO of my own company, Janos LLC. But really, who am I? Who am I is I love to support the people in our community. I gravitated towards the information security, network security area from law about 15 years ago because the people are great. I just love the people in this community of network security, data governance, and cybersecurity. So everything I do kind of talks about the people aspect of it. And that's why I'm excited to talk to you about the regulations, because regulations and people part don't always go together. But this one, they truly intersect in a way that we need to be cautious.
Well, Diane, the subject matter you gave me when I first saw it, security and innovation, and then some of the bullet points, I was a little bit confused about how it would marry in, but after reading the content, I completely understand where we're coming from. And yes, regulation. We used to be members of the EU, the European Parliament, European Community, and we had the GDPR regulation thrust upon us, and that created a lot of challenges in the UK. The SEC are doing exactly the same right now with their new cyber mandates. So I guess for our UK listeners, Diane, could you tell us a little bit about who the SEC are and what on earth is going on with these cyber mandates?
So there's always goodness, I think, in some regulation, and the particular regulation gave people some pause for a number of reasons, which I'll tell you about. But so there is goodness in having this organization. It's an agency called the SEC, Security and Exchange Commission. As everyone knows, we have a very, very active financial market here in the United States. They regulate publicly traded companies, which happens to be on the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, the NYSE. And they have a role to really protect investors, just to protect ordinary Americans to some degree who want to just put their money into stocks and want to make sure that they know that they're being protected and their money is not, being manipulated in a way that they were not aware of. So they really were born out of just protection of people's investments, which is great, right? I mean, that's what you want. So they were established back in the 1930s and they've been very active.
So what is the concern over these cyber mandates then, Diane? What's all the fuss about?
Well, the fuss is that people were concerned that we weren't knowing enough about cyber breaches, right? When the SolarWinds, for example, breach occurred, there was $100 billion in damages. We also saw a number of major breaches at local department stores. A lot of people know about the one with Target, which was just where every people go and buy groceries. And people had to get all new credit cards and because everything was breached and compromised. So then people started thinking about, well, who's watching out for us? Who's watching out for the little guy? So the SEC said, oh, we'll watch out for the little guy and we'll pass these regulations. So the Security Exchange Commission introduced and finalized new regulations in 2023, which required that they report out within 4 days of a cyber attack and report out what the expectations of its disruption, if it's material or not, and what they're going to do about it. Seems fair, right? Great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, great, right. But there was concerns on how it was rolled out and what the expectations are once a breach occurs. So that's where it starts getting tricky. So usually, as we know, there's a lot of goodness in things, but when the pendulum swings too far, it gets people a little bit nervous. And that's where there's a chilling factor going on right now that I thought we could mention today.
For sure, for sure. Well, obviously, everybody's got a right to be concerned because if we if we adopt regulation and the police force to regulate a particular industry, then,
Yeah.
we're entitled to understand, what are the
Yep.
levies that are being put on top of this.
Hmm.
I guess the point that we're all working towards is, what is the response to the SEC filing fraud charges against not just SolarWinds, but Tim Brown, and maybe allude to tell us a little bit about who Tim Brown is and what's his
Hmm.
connection to SolarWinds.
Sure. So thanks for that. So what's spinning these days is the filing that the Security and Exchange Commission, for the first time, took a fraud action, filed a fraud lawsuit against a company that was a victim of a cyber attack. And they said, you didn't do enough. Not only did you not do enough in reporting it within, so much period of time, but you didn't do enough for the last 3 years. You should have been doing way, way more. So people get a little bit nervous because, as we know, cyber criminals can be sophisticated,
For
right? They keep
sure.
changing their tactics, they keep changing their ways, and it's hard to always stay at one step ahead of them, right? So knowing that you're supposed to have reported out or should have known is a challenging standard, right? Like
Yeah.
someone say, you have a 16-year-old boy. Wait, you should expect that he'd sneak out in the middle of the night. Why didn't you bolt the doors up? Because I trust my kid. Well, you shouldn't have trusted. So it's that type of thing. When someone starts saying you should have known, that makes it concerning.
Yeah.
So the reason why this particular one was concerning is usually companies do certain things, and the company is the one that's sued or legally responsible. They named their chief information security officer, chief security officer, Timothy Brown, personally, like going after his house, like his personal assets are now become liable. And they really did it in such a way that really marred his reputation by saying he knew and he should have known, and shame on him. He defrauded everybody and defrauded investors, and they wouldn't have purchased that product, and they certainly wouldn't have invested in the company. That's hard, right? If you're
Yeah.
if you're if you're a main security guy at an IT company, are you going to want to keep going, knowing that you don't always know where these cyber threats are coming from? It really gave a lot of pause to people saying, "I'm not sure I want to be in management." And that to me is the people factor, right? We want good leaders. We don't want good leaders to say, nope, I don't want those positions because my personal assets all of a sudden could be in a legal action for fraud, and this guy would be forever barred from serving other positions. I mean, it would just, the relief that the Security Exchange Commission is seeing in court would essentially just, completely ruin his career, his life in that field. He'd have to go work in a completely different field in a way. So it was very, very challenging. But I thought I might add one more thing if I could, Tommy.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Please do.
So I've been a CISO, and I know lots of folks on your calls have been a CISO, and you want the team to feel comfortable coming to you. Say, Tommy, I've got a problem. This is not looking quite right. Should I do some more investigation? Can I take a little bit of time to figure it out? You want your team to feel comfortable. Say, hey, you're a good boss. You understand. Help. Can I do this? The challenge, in my opinion, is the chilling effect that it's going to have is on employees even raising some of these concerns to the supervisors, because all of a sudden they're on the hook. This is the
Yeah.
size. This is the size of legal filing. See how big? That's huge, right? In
My
this legal,
goodness.
it's ridiculous. Well, no, I should be more gracious. It's voluminous. they But this is the text message part that I wanted to tell you about. So
Yeah.
we all leave for vacation, right? We
Yeah.
all decide we want some time off, and so this gentleman's going, an information security manager was going on vacation, and his coworker says to him, remember, he's not senior management, he's just a senior information security manager. The employee says to him, I hope you have a good time off, and I will try to man the fort. And another employee says, more like keeping the house from burning down.
My
And the
goodness.
and the response was, hard with all these faulty electrics. This was just literally a simple exchange. And I used to work at Fort Meade, and we'd always say, oh, hold down the fort. Oh, we'll try. You'd
Yeah.
always say things in jest, and you're like, yeah. Well, all of a sudden, these employees' text messages are in court filings, and they're going to have to be witnesses against their bosses. It's talk about chilling. Who wants to take the
Diane, it's
leadership?
frightening.
Yeah. And I love the people in the information security field. They always want to do the right thing. They want to shore everything up. They have concerns. So my concern is being able to keep the people that we have and the ones that we do have feel comfortable. And that's the most important thing in cybersecurity is teamwork, right? We all have an element in it. We have to be able to trust each other. So that's where I think the pendulum swung a little bit too far. And right now there's been a lot of concern about, oh, the board is going to be liable. Yes, that's true. The board is going to be liable if they didn't do what they were supposed to do. But I honestly think more should be said about what about the workers, these experts? I'd be concerned about them, right?
Yeah.
We need everybody. So that's where I'm going today, Tommy.
No, absolutely, Diane. And when you started talking about the context behind this subject, and I saw the issue about Tim Brown, immediately for me, I thought, is this now the scapegoat scenario? Is this overkill? Are they taking it a little bit too far? Because doesn't he deserve some protection under the position that he holds, doing the right thing? Unless he is a blatant fraud, which doesn't seem to be the case, does he not deserve a little bit of protection from those people he's representing? I mean, what's your view? Do you think it's overkill? Or is it being used as a scapegoat or an example?
I think it's being used as an example. I mean, my personal opinion is it's gone a little bit overboard. The fact that there was, so much in damages, I think I said that the amount was $100 billion in damages that this event caused to many, many people, investors and just Americans and just people from all over. The concern was that Tim Brown, they went after him personally, and so everyone that I know that knows him, I don't know him personally, say he's an amazing guy. He's soft-spoken, he cares, he's dedicated. He's not some guy that's trying to, pull the carpet up underneath your feet. So if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. That's where,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going from. So that's one of the reasons why I want to mention this on your podcast today, because I think there's all something that we could do, honestly.
For sure, Diane. And I think, so much pressure right now is being leveraged on the CISO for being the point of contact when it all goes wrong. And Diane, as we know, every day, lots of things are going wrong in this environment because of the adversaries that we're dealing with, because the capability and the resource these people have. That poor CISO is being hung out to dry.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then,
I'm not a CISO. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. You're probably you and a lot of other people are like, who would want that job? There's already been a lot of turnover in the field. This is going to kind of accelerate those CISO positions. So,
Diane, tell me, is there a way forward in relation to this situation? Is there a way forward?
What I would say is there's a way forward. Obviously, work with your legal counsel and your senior leadership team. But I think for everybody in this community is what we cannot do is have this fracture us. As leaders, we need to invest in our teammates, invest in each other, and don't let a regulatory action start chipping away at our community.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about the cybersecurity field is that we're global. Yeah. We love working with each other. If we use these type of regulations to change the paradigm, we're going to become like every other sector out there. I want the cybersecurity field to stay inclusive, to stay welcoming, to stay collaborative. And we don't want these things affecting us. So you as a leader, everyone on this call, embrace our community, protect our community, preserve our passion, and say, you know what? We're going to do it the right way. Please feel free to still come talk to me. Tell me if you see a challenge. We will work through it together and I will have your back.
To the CISOs out there, Diane, we have got thousands of CISOs. I have 13,500 followers on LinkedIn, 40% of CISOs, because of the world we all live in now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
One message, this is your closing gambit to all of our listeners. One message to the CISOs out there, because ultimately that's the person people turn to when it all goes wrong. What's the one message you got for the CISOs globally, around the world?
To all my CISO partners out there, stay the course, stay positive. We're going to get through this and we're going to come out stronger because people are going to realize how valuable and important you are, and you're indispensable.
For sure. Diane, I researched you on Wikipedia. That was an hour and I felt I didn't even get through 20% of the papers that you've written, the places you've been, the countries you've spoken in, the jobs that you've done. Phenomenal. I can't begin to tell you what a pleasure it's been having you, our first partner from across the pond, here on Let's Talk Cyber. Thank you so much for your time, Diane. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Let's Talk Cyber. If you like what you see, folks, if you like what you've heard, please subscribe, give us the thumbs up. Check out Dr. Diane Janosek on the internet. Diane, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. So long.